In 2012, a man in rural Oregon walked out of his own gate and into a jail cell. His crime was not theft, fraud, or violence. His offense was utilizing a 6,000-year-old engineering practice on his own 172 acres of land. He did not tap into a municipal grid or drain a public river. He caught the rain. For a decade, Gary Harrington had built a closed-loop water infrastructure on his own property, with 3 reservoirs, 2 10-foot dams, and 1 20-foot dam that stored nearly 13 million gallons of precipitation to protect his land from wildfire. The state ordered him to drain every drop. When he refused, they sent the police. They convicted him on 9 misdemeanor charges. They gave him 30 days in prison and a $1,500 fine. Then they breached his dams with locks and chains so he could never rebuild. Harrington told reporters outside the courthouse, "The government is bullying. They have just gotten to be big bullies. If you just lay over and die and give up, that just makes them bigger bullies." The law used to jail him had been written in 1925, the same year it was handed to a municipal water utility that has controlled every drop of that Oregon watershed ever since. Here is what Gary Harrington's case quietly revealed. There is a practice so old, so universal, so woven into the survival of every civilization that ever existed, that it requires no technology, no infrastructure, and no permission from anyone. You simply catch what falls from the sky. Humans have been doing it for 6,000 years. Every great civilization on Earth was built around it. In the Negev Desert in 2000 BC, entire cities survived with nothing but vast limestone catchment systems carved into hillsides. The Maya of the Yucatan were surrounded by porous limestone that swallowed rivers underground. They built bottle-shaped underground chambers called choltuns beneath their plazas, catching rain and feeding entire cities with no natural water source at all. When Pompeii was buried by Vesuvius, archaeologists found terracotta pipes running from every rooftop into advanced household cisterns. Every Roman home harvested its own rain before the aqueduct ever arrived. In India's Indus Valley, 5,000 years ago, massive rock-cut cisterns called kunds were carved into the landscape of Gujarat and Rajasthan. Single kunds holding 50,000 gallons were common household infrastructure. By 4000 BC, in ancient Palestine and across the Levant, archaeologists have found waterproof lime plaster cisterns built directly into the floors of permanent homes. The earliest evidence of settled civilization organized around one principle: catch what falls from the sky. This was not primitive. This was the most resilient water engineering ever devised. It required no moving parts, cost nothing to operate, was powered entirely by gravity, and could never be shut off by a central authority. So how did catching rain on your own land become a crime? It starts not in Oregon, but in a California gold rush. The year is 1849. Miners flood the Sierra Nevada. Water is everywhere in the mountains, but miners need it where it is not. At their claims, sometimes miles from any natural source. The legal rule became simple. Whoever diverted the water first owned the exclusive right to keep using it. First in time, first in right. This became the doctrine of prior appropriation, the legal foundation of water law across the entire American West. It was never designed for rain. It was designed for rivers, for streams diverted to industrial mines, for the rough frontier logic of extraction, where the first man to dig a channel owned the water. But as cities grew, as utilities formed, as municipal water commissions issued bonds and built infrastructure, they used prior appropriation to do something extraordinary. They claimed the rain, not just the rivers, not just the streams. Every drop that fell within a watershed and flowed toward a creek they had already claimed, that water belonged to them. If your roof intercepted it before it reached their system, you were stealing their property. In Colorado, the doctrine was so aggressive that for most of the 20th century, collecting rainwater in a single barrel was entirely illegal. Not restricted, illegal. The rationale was technically coherent. Every raindrop was already spoken for by a downstream rights holder. Your roof was intercepting water that belonged to someone else. When Colorado finally legalized small-scale rainwater collection in 2016, they capped it at 110 gallons, 2 barrels. That is how deep prior appropriation reached, into the literal rain falling on your property. In Oregon's Big Butte watershed, the state legislature handed exclusive rights to every drop of precipitation in that entire basin to the Medford Water Commission. The year was 1925. That same year, they started selling bonds to build a 31-mile pipeline from a mountain spring to the city. The law was written by a utility that needed to protect its infrastructure investment. It was comprehensive, total, and permanent. Nearly a century later, it sent a man to jail for catching snowmelt on his own 172 acres to protect his house from fire. He served his 30 days. His dams were destroyed. His 13 million gallons drained back into the watershed, back to the utility that owned them. But Gary Harrington's case is only the visible edge of something far larger. Right now, more than half of the world's largest lakes have lost water since 1990. Groundwater is dropping in 71% of the world's aquifers, and in many places, the decline is accelerating. In January 2026, the United Nations officially declared that the world has entered an era they are calling global water bankruptcy. Not a crisis, not stress, bankruptcy, meaning the depletion is outpacing any possibility of recovery. The savings accounts are gone. Mexico City sinks 20 inches per year as the aquifer beneath it collapses. The Colorado River Compact, the legal agreement governing water for 40 million people across the American Southwest, was written based on river flow measurements that no longer exist. The river has shrunk. The compact has not changed. 4 billion people already face severe water scarcity for at least 1 month every year. By 2050, that number could reach 5 billion. And while the aquifers drain and the reservoirs shrink, the sky keeps delivering. An average American roof, 2,000 square feet, produces 1,250 gallons of water from a single inch of rain. 1 inch. The average American home receives between 25 and 50 inches of rainfall per year. A single roof, properly harvested, can capture between 30,000 and 60,000 gallons annually. That is enough to irrigate a substantial garden through an entire dry season. Enough to flush every toilet in a household. Enough to cut a municipal water bill by 30 to 50%. And if properly filtered, a $200 system can accomplish this. It can be clean enough to drink. Every drop that falls on your roof that is not captured flows into the storm drain. It carries fertilizers, motor oil, and road chemicals into waterways. It contributes to flooding. It recharges nothing. It benefits no one. In every ancient civilization, this would have been considered catastrophic waste. In modern suburban America, it is the default. The knowledge of how to change this was never lost. It was simply left behind. The people who never forgot it are not scientists in laboratories. They are farmers in Rajasthan who still build their kunds the way their ancestors did 5,000 years ago. Families in rural Kenya, where corrugated rooftops feed underground cisterns through 6-month dry seasons. Homesteaders across rural Australia, where 30,000-gallon polyethylene tanks have replaced municipal connections entirely. The technology has not changed in 6,000 years because it does not need to. So here is how you build it. And more importantly, here is what it actually costs. The entry point requires no contractor, no tools beyond a drill, and no permit in most states. A 55-gallon food-grade barrel connected to a downspout with a diverter fitting costs between $80 and $160, installs in one afternoon, and captures enough water to carry a 500-square-foot garden through 2 to 3 weeks without rain. That is where you start. But the people who understand this system do not stop at one barrel. The formula that scales it into a genuine, off-grid water utility costs between $500 and $800 in materials, and produces results that would have looked like serious engineering to most people living a generation ago. It has 4 components, and once built, it runs on gravity and rain. First, the catchment surface, your existing roof. Nothing needed except clean gutters and functional downspouts directing water toward your storage. A metal roof produces the cleanest water. Asphalt shingles work with proper filtration. Your roof is already built. The catchment surface costs you nothing. Second, the first flush diverter. This is where the system earns its credibility. The first water off any roof in a storm carries concentrated debris, bird droppings, pollen, dust, chemical residue baked on since the last rain. A first flush diverter is a simple PVC standpipe installed between your downspout and your storage tank. Calculate 1 gallon of standpipe capacity per 100 square feet of roof. That first polluted flush fills the standpipe and slowly drains away between storms. Everything flowing into your storage after that is dramatically cleaner. You can build one for $15 to $30 in parts. Third, storage. For garden and irrigation use, IBC totes, 275-gallon food-grade intermediate bulk containers, are the most cost-effective option available. They sell used for $80 to $150. Link 2 at the bottom with a bulkhead fitting and PVC pipe, and you have 550 gallons of storage for roughly $200. Add a screened lid to keep out mosquitoes, and an overflow pipe to direct excess water to a rain garden rather than your foundation. A third tote brings you to 825 gallons, enough to carry most properties through a 3-week dry stretch with no rain at all. Fourth, filtration. For irrigation, the screen in your tank lid is enough. For laundry or toilet flushing, use a sediment filter and carbon block filter, $75 to $150 installed in line between your tank and pump. For drinking water, which billions of people do daily from similar systems around the world, add a UV sterilizer for $100 to $200, and you have water that meets or exceeds the purity of most municipal supplies. Total cost for a functional 500-gallon irrigation and garden system is $250 to $400. Total cost for a system capable of handling all outdoor water needs and supplementing indoor non-potable uses for an average property is $500 to $800. Before you build, understand where you stand legally. In 46 of the 50 states, there is no restriction whatsoever on rooftop rainwater collection. No permit, no registration, no limit. The federal government has no regulation against it. In Texas, collection equipment is exempt from sales and property taxes, and municipalities offer rebates up to $5,000. In Arizona, the state actively incentivizes installation. In California, the Rainwater Capture Act allows installation without any permit for non-potable use. If you live in Colorado, the law caps collection at 110 gallons, 2 barrels, for outdoor use only. In Utah, up to 2,500 gallons is allowed with free registration. Check your state water resources department before installing anything beyond simple barrel systems. Know the specific regulations for your watershed. In most of America, the sky is already yours. Gary Harrington was right about the principle he was defending. The specific circumstances of his property made his reservoirs illegal, not because he was catching rain, But because a 1925 statute written by a municipal utility handed one water commission permanent legal ownership over every molecule of precipitation in that specific Oregon basin. His dams crossed a line drawn a century ago to protect a bond investment. The law was used against him as it was designed to be used. But the principle he was defending, that a person on their own land should be able to harvest what falls on it, is a principle that 6,000 years of human civilization agreed with before the doctrine of prior appropriation was ever written during the California Gold Rush. Every ancient city that survived drought did it because someone, at some point, built a cistern. The United Nations, in January 2026, says the world is in water bankruptcy. The aquifers are gone. The lakes are shrinking. The rivers are over-allocated. The legal frameworks governing water across the American West are based on flows that no longer exist. The grid that was supposed to manage water for us is failing. And the answer to that failure is 6,000 years old. It fell on your roof this morning. The Negev Desert farmers of 2000 BC knew what to do with it. The Maya of the Yucatan knew. The Romans knew. The farmers of Rajasthan still know. The question is not whether the technology works. It has worked without interruption since the Neolithic age. The question is whether we remember before we run out. You do not need their supply chains. You do not need to depend on systems that can fail. You need a roof, a pipe, a tank, and the patience to let gravity do what gravity has always done. The drought is coming. In some regions, the United Nations is now saying it is not if, but when. The families who built this will walk outside and fill their tanks. The knowledge was never lost. It is waiting on your rooftop. Plant once, catch forever. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe to Nature's Lost Vault and hit the bell. Every like, every share preserves what they tried to drain away. The next vault opens soon.